I stood frozen under those harsh fluorescent lights in the ER, the sharp smell of antiseptic burning my nose, while machines beeped like they were counting down the seconds of my sister's life. My hands were shaking as I gripped the clipboard the nurse had thrust at me. "She's asking for you specifically?" the doctor said quietly, his voice heavy with urgency. "You're her only hope right now, her only listed contact who answered. 5 years of silence, 5 years of being erased from my own family, and here I was, the one they called. My name is Rachel Hayes. I was 29 when everything shattered. I'm 34 now, still carrying the weight of that old betrayal like a stone in my chest. How did we end up here, with me holding her cold hand while my parents were nowhere to be seen? To understand, I need to take you back to the life I thought was solid. 5 years ago, everything felt warm and ordinary, the kind of life you don't appreciate until it's gone. I lived in a little one-bedroom apartment just 10 minutes from my parents' house in our quiet Midwest town. I taught second grade at the local elementary school. Loved the sticky-fingered hugs and the way the kids' eyes lit up when we read stories together. My parents, John and Mary, were in their late 50s, retired after 30 years at the plant. Dad still tinkered in his garage every Saturday, the scent of motor oil and fresh coffee drifting through the screen door. Mom baked bread every Sunday morning, that yeasty smell filling the whole kitchen while she hummed old hymns. And then there was my younger sister, Lisa, 27 at the time, still living at home. She was the spark to my steady flame, always chasing a new idea, a new boyfriend, a new job. We were close, or at least I believed we were. Sunday dinners were our ritual. Pot roast with carrots and potatoes, Dad telling the same fishing stories, Lisa rolling her eyes at my boring teacher life, while secretly stealing the last biscuit. I'd linger after everyone else left, helping Mom wash dishes, the warm soapy water and her soft laughter making the world feel safe. I was the reliable one, the one who drove Dad to his doctor appointments, who remembered Mom's favorite tea, who quietly covered the grocery bill when Dad's pension check was late. Lisa teased me for it, but I never minded. Family was everything. Then came the first tiny crack, so small I almost convinced myself it wasn't there. It started about 3 months before everything exploded. Lisa began skipping Sunday dinners, texting last-minute excuses about work stuff or a headache. Her voice on the phone sounded thinner, distracted, like she was always half listening to someone else. One rainy Tuesday evening, I stopped by the house to drop off some leftover soup for Mom's cold. I found Lisa out back on the old wooden swing, phone pressed to her ear, whispering so low I had to strain to hear. "No, they can't find out yet. Just keep it between us. Okay? I'll handle it." Her free hand twisted the hem of her sweater, a nervous habit I hadn't seen since we were kids. When she spotted me, she ended the call too quickly, forced a bright smile and said, "Just a work thing, Ratch. Nothing to worry about." I hugged her anyway, smelling the faint vanilla of her shampoo, and told myself I was being paranoid. Sisters keep secrets sometimes. It was probably nothing. But that night, driving home through the rain, the wipers thumping like a worried heartbeat, that small knot in my stomach refused to loosen. I pushed it down. Families have rough patches. I refused to let doubt poison what we had. That small knot tightened the following weekend. I had come over early to help Mom with the garden like we always did in spring. Kneeling in the soft dirt, the earthy smell rising around us as we planted marigolds along the fence. Dad was inside watching the game, the low murmur of the TV drifting out. Lisa was supposed to join us but showed up late, her eyes puffy, moving slower than usual. When Mom asked if she was feeling okay, Lisa snapped, "I'm fine, just tired from pulling doubles at the diner." Her tone was sharper than I'd ever heard, cutting through the peaceful afternoon like a knife. She avoided my eyes the whole time, her hands trembling slightly as she patted the soil. I tried to pull her aside later by the old oak tree, the bark rough under my palm. "Lise, talk to me. Is something going on? You know you can tell me anything." She laughed it off, but it sounded hollow, forced. "You worry too much, Ratch." Always the big sister playing savior. She walked away before I could respond, leaving me standing there with dirt under my nails and a growing unease that tasted like metal in my mouth. The real discovery came 2 weeks later, on a humid Thursday evening that smelled of coming rain. I'd stayed late grading papers at school, the classroom quiet except for the scratch of my pen. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Can you come over? We need to talk as a family." My stomach dropped. When I pulled into the driveway, the porch light was on, casting long shadows across the lawn. Inside, the air felt thick, the usual warmth gone. Dad sat at the kitchen table, his face pale and set like stone, fingers drumming silently. Mom stood by the sink, arms crossed tight over her chest, eyes red-rimmed. Lisa was there too, perched on the edge of her chair, looking small and defiant all at once. "What's going on?" I asked, setting my bag down, my voice steadier than I felt. Mom spoke first, her words coming out in a rush, trembling. "Rachel, Lisa told us everything. About the money." I blinked, confused. "What money?" Lisa wouldn't meet my gaze, staring at the faded linoleum floor. Dad cleared his throat, his voice rough with disappointment. "She says you've been taking cash from our joint savings account, the one we set up for emergencies. Over $5,000 in the last few months. For what, Rachel? Your fancy teacher supplies? Or maybe that new car you've been eyeing?" The room spun. I felt the blood drain from my face, the kitchen clock ticking loudly in the sudden silence. "That's not true," I whispered, my throat tight. "I've never touched that account. I don't even have the login anymore since you changed it last year." But Lisa jumped in, tears welling up dramatically. "Don't lie, Wretch. I saw the statements. You've been struggling with rent, right? You complained about it. I covered for you because I love you, but now it's out of control. Mom and Dad deserve the truth." Her voice cracked perfectly, like she'd rehearsed it. Mom turned to me, hurt etched deep in her eyes. "We trusted you, honey, the responsible one. How could you?" I stood there, heart hammering, the smell of Mom's leftover coffee turning sour in the air. I tried to explain, to show them my bank statements on my phone, but they wouldn't listen. Lisa had screenshots, fake ones I realized later, edited just enough to look real. The betrayal hit like a wave, cold and suffocating. My own sister, the one I'd defended since childhood, had spun a lie so complete it painted me as the thief. Dad shook his head, voice breaking. "We're cutting you off, Rachel. No more help, no more Sunday dinners until you make this right and pay it back." Mom just turned away, shoulders shaking. Lisa gave me one last glance, something flickering in her eyes, maybe guilt, maybe triumph, before looking down again. I left that night with my world shattered, the car door slamming behind me like a final punctuation. Driving home through the dark streets, tears blurring the road, I whispered to myself, "Why, Lisa? What did I ever do to deserve this?" The days that followed were a blur of pain and isolation. I called, I texted, I even showed up once, but the door stayed shut. My parents believed her completely. Friends distanced themselves after the rumor spread through our small town. I threw myself into work, smiling for the kids while my heart ached at home. Nights were the worst. Lying awake, replaying every family moment, wondering where the lie had started and why. I never confronted Lisa directly in those early days. The shock left me numb. But slowly, anger simmered beneath the grief. I started quietly gathering my own proof, old statements, timestamps that didn't match, but it felt pointless against their united front. 5 years passed like that. I built a quieter life, a better apartment, a few close friends who believed me, therapy that taught me to breathe through the nights when the pain resurfaced. I heard bits and pieces through mutual acquaintances. Lisa had moved out, gotten engaged, then unengaged. Mom's health had dipped, but I stayed away, protecting what was left of my heart. Until that call from the ER. The ER smelled of fear and bleach, that sterile chill seeping into my bones as I sat beside Lisa's bed in the dim-curtained cubicle. Her face was pale against the white sheets, monitors beeping steadily, and 4 dripping into her arm. She looked smaller than I remembered, fragile in a way that twisted something deep inside me despite everything. The doctor had pulled me aside earlier, his voice low and serious. She overdosed on painkillers mixed with alcohol. We stabilized her, but her liver is struggling. She's been hiding a lot, chronic pain from an old injury, depression she never told anyone about. She specifically asked for you when she woke up. Said you're the only one who ever really listened. I hadn't seen my parents yet. They were apparently on their way, but traffic or shock had delayed them. For now, it was just me and my sister, 5 years of silence hanging between us like smoke. Lisa stirred, her eyes fluttering open, glassy and unfocused. Her hand reached weakly for mine, fingers cold and trembling. "Rachel." Her voice was a raspy whisper, cracked from the tube they'd removed earlier. "I'm so sorry. I messed everything up." I sat there, the weight of her words pressing on my chest. The room felt too quiet except for the distant hum of nurses' footsteps and the occasional page over the intercom. I didn't pull away, but I didn't squeeze back either. "Why, Lisa?" I asked softly, keeping my tone even, though my heart raced. "Why did you lie about the money? You knew it wasn't me. You destroyed our family over—" "What? Jealousy? Fear?" She turned her head slightly, tears slipping down her cheeks onto the pillow. The faint scent of hospital soap mixed with the lingering trace of her vanilla shampoo brought back too many memories. "I was scared," she admitted, her words coming slow and broken. "I had borrowed from that account, quietly at first, for my credit cards, then for that guy I was seeing who promised me the world and left me with nothing. When Mom and Dad noticed the missing money, I panicked. You were always the perfect one. The responsible daughter. I thought if I blamed you, they'd forgive me eventually. I never meant for it to go this far. I thought I could fix it before anyone got hurt. But it snowballed. Every time I tried to tell the truth, the lie felt bigger. Her confession hung in the air, raw and heavy. I felt the old anger rise, but it was tempered now by the sight of her so broken. I remembered the little sister who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, the one who shared her secrets under blanket forts. People are complicated, capable of both love and terrible mistakes when fear takes over. "You let them cut me off completely?" I said, my voice steady but thick with emotion. "No calls, no explanations. I rebuilt my life alone, Lisa. Taught myself not to wait for their approval anymore." She nodded weakly, gripping my hand tighter now. "I know. I watched from afar. Heard you were doing well at school, that you seemed okay." It made me feel worse. Mom and Dad. They started doubting me after a while, but the damage was done. Pride kept them from reaching out. When I got sick last year, really sick, the guilt ate at me. But I was too ashamed to fix it. The curtain rustled and my parents appeared. Mom first, her face etched with worry and exhaustion. Dad trailing with his shoulders slumped, looking older than his years. They froze when they saw me holding Lisa's hand. Mom's eyes filled with tears. "Rachel, you came." Her voice broke on my name. I stood slowly, releasing Lisa's hand but staying close. The air thickened with unspoken years. Dad cleared his throat. His usual gruffness softened by the sterile lights. We got it wrong, honey. Lisa told us bits and pieces over the last year, but we were too stubborn to face it fully. Cutting you off. That was our mistake. We believed the easiest story because it hurt less than admitting we failed both our girls." Mom stepped closer, her hand reaching out hesitantly before dropping. "I'm so sorry, Rachel. The lies, they poisoned everything. We missed you at every holiday, every quiet moment. Can you ever forgive us?" I looked at each of them, my family flawed and hurting just like me. The betrayal still stung, a scar that would never fully fade. But standing there in that hour, with the steady beep of monitors marking time we couldn't get back, something shifted. Forgiveness wasn't about erasing the pain. It was about choosing not to let it define the rest of our lives. "I won't pretend it didn't break me," I said quietly, meeting their eyes. "But I've learned to stand on my own. If we're going to heal, it has to be honest. No more secrets, no more blame. Lisa needs us now. All of us." Lisa whispered a shaky thank you. And for the first time in years, the room felt a little less cold. Over the next days, as she recovered, we talked in fragments. Painful truths mixed with small, careful kindnesses. My parents slowly made amends. Quiet apologies over coffee that tasted like home again. Helping with my apartment repairs without being asked. It wasn't perfect. Trust takes time to rebuild, like tending a garden after a long winter. Some Sundays we still sit in awkward silence, but there's warmth creeping back in. The smell of Mom's bread, Dad's stories, Lisa's tentative laugh. I kept my boundaries, my independent life, but I let the door open just enough for healing. Looking back, that night in the ER taught me the deepest lesson. Family isn't about perfection or who's right. It's about showing up when it matters most, even when every part of you wants to walk away. Lies can shatter everything, but truth, and the courage to face it, can piece it back together, stronger in the broken places. I'm no longer the girl waiting to be believed. I'm the woman who knows her worth, who chooses grace without forgetting the cost. This is Rachel's story from Broken Trust Stories. If you've ever been betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you most, or if you've been the one who broke trust and longed for a second chance, I want you to know you're not alone. Healing doesn't mean going back to how things were. It means building something real from the ruins. Would you have reached out to your sister in that ER, even after 5 years of silence? Or would you have walked away to protect your peace? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I read everyone. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to Broken Trust Stories for more real voices, real pain, and real hope. Take care of your heart out there.